So, you want to know where you have the right to film in areas open to the public? Fantastic. Let's begin. Folks, it's a new topic, which means we get a new background. Completely unrelated, but new beard. So, that's fantastic. Oh, that's real nice. Anyway, let's start this video off with the most important document in the American legal system, the United States Constitution. The First Amendment of the United States Constitution guarantees the freedom of press. Anyone can be the press, and there are very few things you need to establish to be considered a member of the press in the eyes of the law. In Hurley versus Irish American Gay, Lesbian, and Bisexual Group of Boston, the Supreme Court established that you essentially only need a message to deliver and an audience to receive it. Now, there are restrictions to this, and I'll be covering those later on, but for now, we need to discuss government property designated for public use. The two most important types of property in this context are public and non-public fora. A public forum is a place open to the public, designated to allow for the freedom of expression. Common examples of these are public parks, public sidewalks, and public roads. In these areas, there is no expectation of privacy, and anyone is subject to being filmed and audio recorded. Film away. In these types of areas, your First Amendment rights are the strongest. However, restrictions can be made. For example, if you're filming the police doing their job, and they ask you to step back, your right to film does not allow you to obstruct an officer or trespass into a crime scene. And no, they don't need crime scene tape to establish the boundaries of the crime scene. The tape is more of a tool for the officers to mark the boundaries of the crime scene so that they don't have to keep reminding people not to walk in certain places. Hey you, don't walk there. Don't you do it. Sir, if I have to tell you one more time to step back, we're gonna have an issue. Hey, that cigarette butt is evidence. Stop walking on it. It just gets annoying to keep reminding people, so you set up the crime scene tape and then you don't have to deal with it. And you can keep doing your job. And you can do your job a lot better so you're not being harassed. Yes, I have dealt with this before. Now, there's also a thing called a non-public forum, which is property that is open to the public, but only for a specific purpose. Common examples include public hospitals, public courtrooms, and federal post offices. Yes, the public has the right to access these areas, but their conduct, to include activities protected by the First Amendment, can be restricted. They can be restricted? Why? Well, you have Ward versus Rock Against Racism to thank for that. Well, it wasn't really that case's fault. However, that was the case where the Supreme Court established the test to determine whether restrictions of your rights were reasonable. To pass the test, 3 things have to be established. The restriction is content neutral. It's narrowly tailored to serve a significant government interest, and it leaves ample, open alternatives for communicating the speaker's message. In a public forum, those limitations will be few and far between. But in a non-public forum, expect a lot more. For example, you might be covering a news story in a courtroom, but that courtroom might not allow you to film. However, you can still draw pictures, which is why you see pictures like this all the time instead of actual photographs. Don't be surprised if you're filming in this type of forum and are asked to stop. Failure to comply can result in a notice of trespass, and failure to leave can result in a lawful arrest. What about private property that's open to the public? Oh, well, you mean like a grocery store or similar place of business? Yeah, they can stop you from filming for basically any reason. If you're on that property, it's because the owners let you be on that property. And if they have rules that govern your conduct without discriminating against things like race or sexual orientation, they can absolutely issue a notice of trespass for failing to abide by those rules. Well, what about filming from private property that isn't open to the public? If you're allowed to be there by the owner, then great. If not, you have a lot more to worry about than whether or not your filming is legal. Now, from that property, you can film all sorts of things. You can film the outside of federal buildings, you can film onto your neighbor's lawn, you can even film into your neighbor's house. Wait, maybe you can film into your neighbor's house. Some states, counties, cities, towns, or even neighborhoods might have harassment or surveillance laws that would prohibit that sort of activity. I would recommend looking into that before doing anything crazy. If none of those exist, then you're probably good to go. However, it is still important to take expectation of privacy into account. That is the second time I've mentioned expectation of privacy. What on earth do I mean by it? Well, expectation of privacy is basically what you might think it is. In the place that you're filming, is it reasonable to expect a level of privacy? In 1967, thanks to Katz versus the United States, Justice Harlan created the reasonable expectation of privacy test, which consisted of two things. One, an individual has exhibited an actual expectation of privacy. And two, the expectation is one that society is prepared to recognize as reasonable. Thanks, Judge Harlan. There are some exceptions to those rules. But for the most part, that test is a pretty good legal standard. Let me give you an example of expectation of privacy. If I'm on my front lawn and you're in your house with your curtains open, I can take pictures through your windows, because if you expected privacy, you would, I don't know, close the curtains or spray paint your windows or do something that would stop me from filming inside of it. But what if I got myself a thermal camera and used it to spy into your house through all your pesky little walls? Well, no, that would be illegal. At least until thermal cameras became commonly used by the public to spy into people's houses. There are tons of examples. And if you have questions, please send them to me on Twitter, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can. You can also ask in the comments section, but I'm less likely to see them there. Before I forget, just a reminder, if you're on public or private property, it's illegal to film a military installation that has been declared restricted, confidential, secret, or top secret by the President, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of the Army, the Secretary of the Air Force, or the Secretary of the Navy. If that was a little fast for you, I do have a video on it right there. And in the meantime, be good, stay safe.